The Pirates destroyed the Diamondbacks 10-1 to take the series in the desert. And in 2 games, Henry Davis has turned even hardened heads into hopeful fans. Is it justified? That's next on Locked On Pirates.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Pirates. I'm Gary Morgan. Today we'll be talking about yesterday's game, of course, Henry Davis, Paul Skenes, and we'll talk about the overall team as we sit right now. Pittsburgh Pirates catcher Henry Davis over his last 7 games, 400 average, 1,078 OPS, and 13% K rate. 3 runners caught stealing 2. Has Henry Davis arrived? That's the question at hand, I think, today. I think a lot of us had kind of already decided what Henry Davis was, right? It feels like most of last year, Henry Davis was seen as a bust. It seems like that phrase got thrown around super quickly with Henry. A lot of people didn't like the pick to begin with. Let's talk about Henry in general, okay? First, he had a lot of injuries on his way up. So there was a little bit of a stutter start to his career to begin with. He's hit in the minors at every level. So we shouldn't have expected that he couldn't do anything offensively. I think we just thought there's some kind of a disconnect when he gets to the majors and it's not working out. Some of us have argued that's a little bit about opportunity. Some of us have argued it's a little bit about the message not getting through as far as like the differences between AAA and the majors. Some of us thought things that work in the minors don't work in the majors. You know, you can get away with some of the bat playing things that he does and trying to pull the ball as frequently as he does. You can get away with that to a degree in the minors. And as hard as he hits the ball, there are balls that are going to get through a minor league infield that will not get through a major league infield. So, you know, your results are even going to be different on the same hit balls. But there's been something missing with Henry because there's a ton of thunder in that bat, and he just has not been able to make it work at the major league level. So to see him come out and do some really good things, I think everybody immediately starts going, well, why? Right? Even the broadcast did. Even the broadcast during the game yesterday was talking about, oh, well, Adam Frazier showed him this drill that he does, and it's really helped him stay through the ball. Well, I got news for you. That is not the first time that Henry has been shown a drill to help him stay through the ball. He tried last year working with Joey Bart to mimic his bat change, where you know how Joey Bart never finishes his follow through, like he keeps the bat almost pointed towards the left field line when he's done swinging. And he generates a lot of power with that. But that's done specifically because Joey struggled to not pull everything out of bounds just over and over again. He was basically wasting all of his power. So that seemed appealing to somebody like Henry too, right? I mean, that's something that you think would translate. Well, it didn't take. He tried working with him. I never saw Henry actually able to execute it in game. So there's some differences there. I think that, okay, a different guy shows you a different way, but Adam Frazier doesn't hit anything like Henry Davis, right? So this was really just a drill. Just, hey, give this a shot. I think you'll like it. And it's worked out for him. It's helped him. But it's not the only way he's gotten help. He had a private coach in the offseason. He's worked with private coaches to help him get better at catching, including internal coaches with the Pirates. He's worked on his hitting feverishly. He bought himself a sim machine, like for the off season. Henry has never cheated you for effort. He's just cheated you for results. Now, if he's going to start getting results, I think the Pirates have finally gotten their answer at catcher. Now, there will have to be some moves made. They're going to have to dance around this. It's a short-term injury here to Joey Bart. I mean, concussions are weird. He's on the 7-day IL, but a concussion, from watching other sports too, it could last weeks. It could even be a month. You don't know how long it's going to take a guy to come back from something like that. Andy Rodriguez is up here now as I'm assuming, backup catcher, but he's not a guy that you're going to want to just sit either. So I don't think this is just going to be 100% all Henry all the time at this point, but I do think Henry has earned himself more opportunities. First of all, I do really believe that he makes the pitching staff better. I just think there is a noticeable difference when these guys are throwing to Henry Davis versus when they're throwing to other people. And I don't mean that to disparage anyone. And I do realize that being Paul Skenes' personal catcher is going to help get you a reputation for being good, right? But there is something there. There really is. He seems to have whatever it is that catchers have on occasion, where they just have the kind of flex you need to talk to a superstar pitcher and get them to calm down, change things, do whatever needs done in a game to make it work. Maybe it's his intensity. Maybe it's just the fact that he's so well studied, which everyone says, that you don't even question his information. But I talked yesterday on this show about how the Pirates have valued defensive catching, and they've gone out and gotten defensive catching purposefully, knowing it didn't have a bat with it, and made it a starter because they know how important it is to a pitching staff. Well, that being said, I think you should look at what Henry Davis is doing right now and realize that eventually that defense is going to trump anything else they're talking about, despite what the lineup does. And if he brings a bat with it, forget it as far as opportunity goes for anyone else. Henry's going to catch most games, and he's going to play most games. They'll find a way to get his bat in as a DH if it happens. What does this mean for Andy Rodriguez? Well, I mean, it could wind up meaning that this is a short-term blip and Henry goes back to being somebody that struggles at the plate. You still have that defensive thing to work with, but Andy has been no slouch back there too. I don't think he's had the greatest start to the season as a catcher, but again, everything with Andy is coming off a 1-year absence from doing anything. So it's not really fair to judge Andy either. Just like it shouldn't have been fair to call Henry a bust, it shouldn't be fair to call Andy one. Andy's even younger. I just think you have to have a little bit more patience when you onboard prospects. I see a lot of people cry for these prospects to come up, and then as soon as they do, you want to pull the trigger and just say, oh, it's over. And it could be that it's not the right prospect for you sometimes, but you get a guy like Mike Burrows called up here, he gets 2 starts. I see people wanting to immediately go, okay, well, listen, it hasn't worked out. That's a couple bad starts for Mike Burrows. Let's go ahead and send him back down or put him in the minors. Let's get Bubba up here. Let's put Ashcraft back in the rotation instead and put Burrows in the bullpen. Pump your brakes a little bit, okay? When you call up a starting prospect, especially one you care about, you need to give them a little bit of opportunity. You've got a little bit of nerves the first time that you're going out there facing a major league lineup. You've got guys that can hit stuff that's never been hittable that you've thrown before. That changeup Mike Burrows throws in the minors, nobody touches that ball. Nobody. It doesn't get hit for power. It doesn't get hit for average. In fact, it barely gets touched. So when he comes up here and all of a sudden guys are touching it, think about what that does to a guy mentally. He's had this pitch in his back pocket. He can throw it anytime he wants when he needs a strike, or he needs a swing and miss, or he needs weak contact. And then you get up here and you throw that pitch the exact same way, and boy, it just doesn't work out the same way, does it? I think that takes a minute for guys to get past that. It takes a minute for guys to realize, oh my goodness, I can't just flitter that ball up there. I've got to try to throw that fastball. That can take 7, 8 starts before a guy can really sink in and understand what's available in his repertoire. When we come back, let's talk about Paul Skenes and yesterday's game, kind of how he and Henry have worked together, and we'll move into how the lineup is shaping up overall. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I toss these babies in my golf bag every time I head to the course. No shells, Wonderful Pistachios for that grab and go ease, and I wind up sharing them with the whole group by the time we finish a round. Get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Let's talk a little bit about yesterday's game, and then we'll talk specifically about Paul Skenes. I just want to talk about the offensive explosion because it really came against some of the game's better pitchers. Really, I mean, Corbin Burns kept them down, and then Henry Davis kind of broke through, hit that 2-run homer, ended up chasing him out of the game, and then they took advantage of a terrible Arizona bullpen, and it is performing terribly. And they kind of did the same thing, except they hit Zach Gallen too on Sunday, or not Sunday, Wednesday. I'm on vacation today, so it like kind of screws me up a little bit. But on Wednesday, they just went ape. They hit Gallen like crazy. They hit the bullpen like no problems whatsoever. I'm a little confused about some of the usage that I see with players here and there. Like I don't understand why Jared Triolo got the start in this one. Nick Solak hasn't played in a really long time. I think I would have liked to have seen him. He did get in late as a pinch hitter and he got to play first base a bit, but Jared Triolo had a good day too. So I understand like wanting to get him good, even though I kind of called for him to be demoted yesterday. I still feel that way. I think those hits that he got were, pretty much that reverse BABIP that I've been talking about with him, where you're going to get results on occasion, but I don't think you're going to get better practices that provided them. O'Neal Cruz, 1 hit, but it was a big one, and big 2-run homer late. They were up big already, but just an exclamation point on the whole offensive barrage. The only home run hit. IKF is just absolutely tearing the cover off the ball, though. He's hitting the ball for power, actually, to the alleys, which is just not what I heard IKF was about. I thought he was mostly a slap single type guy, but it's been really cool to see. I just want to talk about Paul Skenes because we've been watching him, and I keep hearing the rumors still that he's a trade candidate or that he's pouting or that he probably hates it here. Listen, Paul is a winner, and he has chosen to play for winners when given the choice. First, he chose the Air Force, then he chose LSU. But as in most North American sports leagues, he was not given a choice as to where his first MLB home would be. That said, the assumption that he is immediately looking to jump ship, I think they've dismissed the fighter in him. The guy who knows if he can do it here, it'll mean a lot more than if he does it where it's expected. The guy who knows he just signed up for a fight, but thinks he has a lot of what it'll take to win against the odds. Don't get me wrong, I know the PR game. I'm intentionally not using his quotes recently to prove my point because of that. I'm simply saying this player, he knows how hard it'll be here. And he knows it's in part because they could never afford someone like him on the open market. I think early on, it's easy for kids like him to believe they can make it different, bend things to their will, make change possible by their mere existence. And at some point, they either grow frustrated that it's gone the way it has, or it becomes clear all the promise of things to come never came. But at this stage, it's fair and safe to believe the kid when he tells you he wants to win and do it right here. It doesn't mean a whole lot, honestly. It doesn't change where the team is or how much they have to do to be ready to support such an idea, but it does mean, at least for now, let's stop paying attention to all the BS trade stuff for Skenes. The team said no, the player said no, and honestly, they'd be fools to say or do anything different. Paul Skenes is going to be here for a while. Embrace it. Embrace it. And when you watch him and Henry together, what I really want you to pay attention to next time you see it is just how Henry kind of leads his glove back and forth in the zone. I saw somebody the other day say, well, you can't set up right down the middle and expect to not have bad things happen, right? Because Joey Bart was setting up right down the middle, and that's exactly where the pitch went, and it's clearly why it got hit. But when you watch Henry, I want you to see where he puts his glove most of the time. He sets his target right in the middle. And then right before Paul's about to throw the pitch, that's when he puts his glove closer to where he thinks it's going to go or wants it to go. And then they adjust from there. This does a couple things. And I think Henry is kind of on the leading edge of this sort of thing. There has been a little bit of a trend in Major League Baseball where catchers are trying to not obviously set up to the outside or inside. They're trying to not obviously put their glove up way high or way low. They're trying to leave it more centralized because batters are peaking. And they're peaking and getting an advantage because they know at least the quadrant where that pitch might go. This has always been the case in Major League Baseball. You'd always see this kind of subterfuge a little bit between the catcher and the pitcher. Henry's just doing it a little bit different even than that. He sets up in that one knee stance that he does, but he's so good at sliding on that knee that it doesn't make you stay where you are. You're able to actually move, and you don't have to look like you're reaching for the ball, because that's another problem. It prevents you from being able to frame a pitch in. I mean, I watched him steal strikes yesterday, and then I had a hard time really mentioning it. I wanted to talk about it. I was actually keeping a notepad while I was watching the game, and I'm ticking off every time that I feel like he really stole a strike. And then I really ingested the whole game and everything that the umpire did in that game. And I thought to myself, I can't do that because he's given away as many strikes as he is stealing them. Like, this umpire is awful. He's calling pitches 5 inches off the plate as strikes. Down, up, left, right, it doesn't matter. And it was insane. And then the game before was even worse. I got to say, the Pirates usually do not have offensive success when that's the case. They're so driven by that walk and trying to only take the pitches that will get them on base as walks. They don't swing it at junk like that normally. I've seen a little bit of an uptick in the Pirates taking a hack at a pitch that's close that they think they can do something with. None more so than Alexander Canario. Alexander Canario will take a rip at something that's out of the zone if he thinks he can get wood on it, and he does. And it's worked for him. And I think we're seeing some other players tend to start to head in that direction. Andrew McCutchen's lagging behind because his eye is just better than 90% of the umps out there. He knows what's a strike and what isn't a strike. And I think Brian Reynolds has decided, I'm just going to swing my way out of this. And he has. So he's started to really kind of fire up because he's just hitting the ball now instead of trying to rely on the umpires to be fair with him. If it's close and he thinks he can put good wood on it, he is. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa has been doing it all season, and he's really, really roaring right now. In fact, I'm getting myself all worked up talking about this lineup a little bit because it's getting interesting. So let's step away for another second, come back. I want to talk a little bit more about how this Pirates lineup is going to continue to evolve, how it could continue to evolve. Some of the players coming back, what they could do with them. Interesting times. All right, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit me with a like. Share this with a friend. Make sure they know that Locked On Pirates is a good place to go to get information about their favorite baseball team. So let's talk about what happened yesterday in the lineup, how the lineup is shaping up, things that they can do and can't do. First, we discussed the power is still a real problem, but there is a couple things that could mitigate it a bit. Okay. One, if this Henry breakout is real, that's a power bat that they have completely discounted having. He's a guy that can hit those kind of homers. He is a guy that can hit in the middle of the lineup if he can continue to hit like this. I think that's got to be proven out yet. I think we need to see it for a few more weeks. They already started creeping him up into the lineup a little bit, though. You see him moving up into the fifth spot, last night, just to kind of, or sixth spot, just to kind of see if they can't lengthen things out a little bit and keep him out of that bottom third. He was hitting ninth when he was playing. So they're clearly seeing something different with Henry. Moving him up a little closer to the middle of that lineup, if he's hitting like this, is going to help those power numbers a little bit, I think. Spencer Horwitz is still relatively untapped for power. I do expect him to hit somewhere between 10 to 15, and I'm only saying 10 to 15 because he missed so much time due to injury. But I think 10 to 15 this year is more than something we should expect. I think if he doesn't do that, you're probably still going to be looking for a first baseman, to be honest. He's a good first baseman, but he's either got to hit close to 300 or he's got to provide some power, 10, 15, 20 home runs, something like that. I think you're looking at a good first baseman in that case. And something that we should look for. He should have some power. Alexander Canario is hitting the baseball hard and everywhere. The one thing that Alexander Canario has that we have not seen on full display yet is the power. He's got a couple home runs, but I think Alexander Canario, as he continues to get more comfortable, I think we're going to start seeing him actually go out and seek home runs a little bit more often. There's a far stretch from I'm good at baseball, I'm good enough to be here, I'm good enough to be in this league, I can hit, I know what I'm doing, I found something that works for me, I'm making contact, and all the way to I know I have power. I know I can hit home runs. I know the team needs me to. And then being capable of doing it. That's another step. If Alexander Canario can take that step, well, then he's no longer just a nice pickup they got in the waiver claim. He's a starter for a while. He's a starter on this team because it's this team. But if he can start adding that power aspect, and I mean like if he's a guy that can hit 20, that's a starter. Brian Reynolds is starting to find his stroke, up to 7 home runs now. And I think most important thing with Brian Reynolds to just keep in mind is as cold as he was, as terrible as his start was, he still leads the team in RBI with 31. Okay, now he plays a lot, so that's why. But you would think that that would be Oneil Cruz with the 12 home runs, and and he's the one that looks like the most dangerous hitter in the lineup, and he is. But 26 RBI, Brian Reynolds still stirs this drink. He's still the most important player on this team, at least as far as veterans go. Got him locked up. He's arguably their best extension that they've made so far with this regime. And you really want to see it pan out. He has to be a star, period. Has to be a star. There's a lot that has to happen between now and the end of the season for him to play like one. Average has got to go up. The on-base percentage has got to go up. He's put a good amount of work in this past 3-game set into taking that step. I think we'll see him continue to regulate as he normally does into June and July. Andrew McCutchen's been really good recently. Adam Frazier has been brilliant recently. In fact, so brilliant that I think we're going to have a hard time just going back to having Nick Gonzalez be the full-time starter right away. Don't get me wrong. Adam Frazier has no future here as a Pittsburgh Pirate. It's not as though he's part of the solution or part of the future or anything. Nick Gonzalez is and potentially could be. So you want to make sure that Nick Gonzalez gets the lion's share of bats. But when your offense has struggled as much as it has, and you finally got a guy who a week and a half ago was hitting like 138 and now he's hitting 255 because he's on such a tear, it's going to be hard to sit that. It really is. I mean, Adam Frazier's earning himself more playing time, and I think that we're going to see that play out even as Nick Gonzalez comes back. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, 297. I talked a little bit yesterday about how he was almost like a poor man's Luis Araz, except, you know what? He kind of is. He doesn't strike out. He makes contact, hits for average, plays decent defense. I still don't like him as a shortstop. I still think the Pirates will end up having to trade Isaiah Kiner-Falefa this year because it's his last year on contract, and I don't see them retaining him. Although I could argue he'd be a really, really, really solid bench piece that you'd love to have around. I just don't think they'll use him as such because I don't think they would pay him as such. I think if they were to keep him, they'd probably have to pay him similar to what he's making this year. And I just don't think that you want to pay him that. In fact, I think the only way I would do that is if I was basically able to find a way to drop Ke'Bryan Hayes' salary. Because then, okay, I've got room to pay a guy like that. I do love what he does in the lineup, though. He keeps the ball moving. He keeps the bases dirty for pitchers. Doesn't matter who he's facing, he's on there. He's always keeping traffic going. So the Pirates have a little bit more juice, I'd say, on offense. And it helps that they've gotten healthy. It helps that guys are warming up a little bit. It also helped that they faced a terrible bullpen. So I really do need to see how it plays out against the next opponent, which is San Diego. Pirates have struggled against San Diego. We all watched that. But San Diego still has one of the better bullpens in the game. So this one's going to come down to the Pirates starting pitching. how much they keep them in it. If you're going to ask the Pirates to come back late against San Diego Padres, you might as well pencil in a couple losses. If you're going to ask them to hang around in a game because you pitch so well and sneak out a win or two against the Padres, I think that that's doable. The thing that the Pirates can do better than they did last time they faced the Padres is, in general, this lineup can hit a little better. There's not, I don't think, going to be, 8 and 10 runs, in every series, but I do think that they're more competent. I don't think that we should scoff at like 4 runs a game. 4 or 5 runs a game should be enough with a lot of this rotation. Mitch Keller goes on Friday. That's the next opportunity. Let's see what they can do against better pitching. That's the juice for me. It was a fun series in Arizona, and I certainly don't begrudge that because we haven't had a lot of them. But I also don't want to get carried away and start pretending that everything has turned around completely. I've seen some good signs for a couple weeks here. I certainly saw some great signs this last stretch from Henry Davis and Brian Reynolds and O'Neill Cruz and Alexander Canario. I've really enjoyed watching them progress and kind of find their game together. But it's another thing entirely to do it against a good team. This last stretch, the Pirates played Cincinnati, Milwaukee, and Arizona. They faced all 3 of them when they were under 500, and they left all 3 of them under 500. So the Pirates did a good job against teams in a similar lot of life that they live in. Now let's see what they do against a team that's already taking care of business against them and is clearly ahead of them, like in the standings. That's the next step. The Pirates have got to start playing better against the better teams. And the reason they have to is because so many of them are, on paper, better. So we need to see it play out against them. If you start seeing that, yeah, we'll have some more exciting talks. The season's not over. It's not. Are they probably out of contention for everything? Yeah, I think so. But there's still so much we have to learn about this team. And the better they do, depending on who it is that does it, the better we'll feel going into 2026. Paul Skenes and Henry Davis and Brian Reynolds and Alexander Canario and guys like that doing well, man, that should make you feel better because they have all those guys for the next year too. When you see things from like IKF or Adam Frazier that make you excited, maybe not so much. Because reality is this team is probably going to have to do the adult thing and trade them. And it's not going to make sense to a lot of people, especially if they didn't listen to segment 3 of yesterday's show. That's all I got today. I'm going to be at the Post Malone concert tonight at PNC Park, so I'm going to try to post a couple videos for you guys just so you can kind of see the scene and the atmosphere a little bit. And it's baseball-y enough. It's at PNC Park, right? That's all I got for you. Let's go Bucks.